It's awesome.
It is so cool.
Recording in progress.
All right, it is March 10th at 5:30, and we will call this meeting to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy sort of spring. Spring, the first spring we're gonna have before more snow. How about a roll call, Tammy?
Trustee Peterson?
Here.
Trustee Curry?
Here.
Mayor Halstead?
Here.
Trustee Roan?
Here.
Trustee Gregg?
Here.
Trustee Wheeler?
Here.
Is Trustee Youngquist?
He's sick.
He's online.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, great. We got a quorum. I need an action to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right. No, is there any identification of actual perceived conflicts of interest with the agenda? Nope. All right. I need an action to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right. Consent agenda is passed. Let's see. Let's see if there's any. I don't have my trusty assistant Sarah. Yeah.
I don't think there's any.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody need a paper copy of the agenda? Oh, you're all good.
No good? Okay. Then let us identify that there were no citizens to address the board. Is there anybody online, David?
There is one person.
Oh, there is one person. All right. Identify yourself and where you live, please.
I mean, she's not wanting to talk.
Oh, she doesn't want to talk.
No.
Just one online, but not to
We have
address
one
us.
online that's not raised their hand.
Okay, sorry about that. My
Yep.
bad.
My bad.
All right, Sheriff, we're already to you.
That was quick.
Hey, it's too nice a day to sit inside. We got to move this along.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, in your packets, I think we got this squared away. You should have the calls for service for February of this year. We had a total of 77 calls for service in the month of February. 17 traffic contacts. We did have 2 traffic accidents in the month of February. The threats that you see was at the Dolores school, as well as the suicide threat. Those were all handled through Safety Tel, and everything's fine. We did have one drug overdose call in town that was taken care of as well. That person is fine. That also turned out to be a mental health issue. I think that's what we have for there. I also included the Sector 801 calls for service, which is outside of the town limits in Dolores, so you would see that it wasn't just handled by the 2 deputies and myself that are here, but by other deputies during those off hours and whatnot. We had 90 calls for service in that area, which would be what we call Sector 801, outside of the town in the northeastern part of the county. 3 traffic caches, all of these were on the highway. Don't know of anything major. We did have an assist for the Adult Protective Services for a citizen here that needed, that was one of the, you'll look in there, it was the indecent exposure call for service. That's what that was. It was a mental issue that was just kind of a tragedy, but she's better now. So anyway, this happens,
This
okay,
happens.
everywhere,
Yeah.
but, you know, it was fine. That's what that was. We didn't have any streakers or anything like that. That's what that call was about, but it was a resident here. She's getting the help through Adult Protective Services, so she's doing just fine, okay? Anything else? I don't think of anything.
I am sorry if I didn't see the reply to my email that I sent you and the town manager a week ago.
My fault.
No, I haven't looked to see if you
Emails got
replied.
hacked, okay? So I'm still
But
trying to put those
what I
together.
asked is, what actions can we take for vehicles on the street that are not registered? So, way back when I was a trustee, it was said to me, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting this right, that if it's on the street and it's not registered and it's not runnable, it needs to be removed.
It's okay.
Right?
Yes.
Who's that?
Hang on,
Okay,
somebody's,
and we have, the one I sent you in the email, has not been registered in 2.5 years, and it has 4 flat tires.
Okay.
And it's
It's
just
an
not
abandoned
moving anywhere.
Yeah. Let me find that email.
Okay.
and We'll take care of that. There's also 2 others that I found,
Yep,
just in the
we
past
found
week.
one this weekend too.
Yeah, so we're gonna deal with those as abandoned vehicles, and we'll contact the registered owners.
Yeah, and asked if they
Yeah.
need help. I mean,
Yeah.
we wanna be helpful, but
I
in
understand.
the one I sent you,
Okay.
without giving too much away, I believe the owners of the house died.
Yeah,
And my guess is that it was their car and now it's just in limbo.
I'll follow up on that, and I'll let you know. I will let y'all know how that turned out, but yeah.
Is that the ones
I
parked
can
in
look
the
into
yard?
that this week.
The car that's parked in the yard?
It's already down the valve.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, good. Was it this month, or was it?
You know which house I'm talking
Was it last month that we had supposed to be the public meeting at the Dolores Public Library?
Uh-huh, last Monday.
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
Monday
I guess I can
before.
talk about that, because that was last month, but even if it was this month.
Sure.
okay. There was roughly 300 people out there. The limit, the occupancy limit at the Dolores Library was met, and no one else could enter. And I explained that to most everybody, just that they can't go in. And if they did, it would put me in a bad situation, because I'd have to shut it down, because that's a safety hazard. And so everybody was very cooperative and understood and whatnot. I know that it created some type of an incident, either through social media or wherever, I don't know, but it ended up in newspapers and stuff, that the speaker for Jeff Hurd's office was supposed to be there to speak, okay? And it was first reported that she didn't show. Well, she did, but there was no room in the parking lot, okay? And I had blocked the parking lot because there wasn't, I couldn't let any more vehicles because there's no place to put people. And people were everywhere in the parking lot, it was full of people and cars, so. I explained that I would find a place to put her in there because one vehicle had left. But she was rather taken back by the crowds. And I told her that I will get you parked, I can walk you in, and I can stay there with you and make sure that you leave safely, everything is gonna be fine. But she wanted to find out from her district office first, whether or not she should. So I got her onto the highway safely and said she'd go up the road and make contact, just let me know what she wanted to do. So it wasn't until about 4:30 that an email or a text message was sent to me from her that said that out of due consideration and whatnot, her concerns. So she wasn't going to attend, and she would let the group know, which was the League of Women Voters know that she wasn't going to attend. That was pretty much it, other than trying to keep people out of the road. Because I had to explain to most everybody that wanted to cross the highway that at that location, motoring traffic has a right of way. We have crosswalks on half a block on either side that they can certainly use, but I can assist them when the traffic cleared to get across, and that's what I did for an hour and a half. So everybody went home safely. That's pretty much what happened. So,
Next time we can have it at a bigger venue.
yeah,
Yeah, right?
that's what a lot of people, it's like, I agree, you probably should. So, who knows? Who knew that it was gonna be like that? You know, I don't know. I think they were taken back too, that there were so many people there, but it's just like, well, that's their right to be there. And everybody was very cooperative, so there wasn't anything. I did get a nasty email from one gentleman who thought I should have told everybody because he pays part of my salary, that was my job. So I had to explain to him the whole situation, verbatim, the text message that I got for her. This is the truth. That's what happened. And several other phone calls from other people explained everything. And apparently there was somebody at Jeff Hurd's office in Washington that was telling people that I told her not to go in. That's not true. I was rather upset.
I read that too.
Nobody could give me the
Right.
name because I was gonna make several phone calls to get that straightened out. But he sent me a letter apologizing and everything. It's like, it's okay. It's all right, so it's okay. But
Okay.
that's what took place. Every now and then we get these kinds of things, so.
Okay.
It's okay.
Awesome.
I will follow up. I will try and find that email. I will get with town manager. to
Yeah,
make
she
sure I
knows
got
it,
it.
so, it's just, it was more of a question because
No, you're right.
obviously we have a few of those cars and we want
There-
to help the people if they
There
can't
is an
help them.
ordinance that covers that, yes. There is.
Because you weren't here at the last meeting, but we were talking about cleanup.
Uh-huh.
And so our whole, I guess, vibe around it is that, of course, if you can clean up, great, but we're gonna also help you with resources,
Yeah.
where to go, who to call, whatever, if we can.
But
You know,
down
if
the
you don't know
town's
where to
always
take
like
this
that.
car, maybe we can help you find somewhere to pick it up or whatever.
Yeah. The town has always been good about helping people out, and
Yeah.
they know that. You guys have been great.
So just let us know what we need to do.
Okay? I will.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Before we move on, Norbert, do you have anything to say?
No, I'm here supporting the restaurant.
Oh, okay, okay. Didn't know if you were going to,
I'm
Okay.
open for questions.
all right, Susan,
If you have anything.
Oh, you
have
do?
questions.
Can I ask him a question?
we have a question for you, I guess.
Okay,
I don't know if you remember me, I own the Italian right down the street.
yeah, I do.
I get a lot of people asking about your property and what your plans are for it, and I don't know what to tell them. I tell them you're working on it as you can,
Yeah,
but I didn't know.
well, we're kind of getting to that really good point where I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And so once we get they were gonna try and finish the stucco last year, but they ran into winter. And my deal with him is he just does it when he has no other work to do, so he's gonna try and get on it pretty soon.
Are you doing the front this summer?
Yeah, and I have to meet and get a new
And the
updated
back.
permit for that, because my other one expired in April. Anyway, so that, and so my plan is to get it looking really pretty on the outside. The structural work has been done. I need to upgrade the sprinkler heads, apparently, because they were approved for residential. It's, to my understanding, they were good enough for 10 years, and all of a sudden last year they're not good enough. So I'm working on getting those switched over this year, and there's a couple things like that that I want to probably meet with someone on. And then I'd like to get a new sidewalk, and I think that involves the town approving my parking plan, or somebody approving that. And I have some ideas to make like a little bit wider sidewalk so that I can have outside tables and maybe a planter or two. I think that would be fun. And then I'm up against putting in an elevator and upgrading the electrical, which is a big thing. So, but at that point, I think it's going to be solid, looking good, and you can walk inside it. The floors, you know, I have the material to do the subfloors and everything. So I think at that point I can either maybe get some financing or sell it or something to move it to that next level, because that's a big jump for me. You know, it's maybe a $200,000 thing to get an elevator like. So, but I'm working on a few things. I have a property in Phoenix that I'm thinking of selling. If I do that, then I can do the elevator. And so I would love to be able to open it, but I've just been working cautiously toward that.
But are you gonna make it a hotel? Is it gonna be a mixed use, like a bar?
So the main thing that I see right now, and that this can change, but I see the downstairs being some kind of either combination of retail, restaurant, bar, something. I'm not gonna run it. So, you know, if someone wants to approach me to do it, that'd be great. And then I don't see it immediately opening as a hotel or anything like that, because I don't know if the market is there. But I think there's enough. I think there's enough of this town happening right now that it could support some businesses downstairs, and I think that would just reconnect it to the community and just make it a viable place again.
That'd be awesome.
So that's kind of my short-term goal right now.
Great,
Awesome,
thank you so much.
Okay.
Susan, you ready for us?
Sure.
Should we all turn to the page with your dates on them?
Sure, and I've got a pretty one, but I've only got one copy right now. Okay, 2025 events. So this list that I have here is what's going to be published to the public, but it has everything. So it has Arts and Crafts Bazaar, Rotary Bike Race, the River Fest, as well as Christmas at the Galloping Goose, in addition to the normal ones that the Chamber does. So I guess the first one, Riverfest, I guess I don't need to really talk about that other than it's always the first Saturday in June. And Scott is going to be working on the paperwork for that. So when I get the go-ahead, I'll start marketing that to vendors and building the website for the Riverfest and all that. The second one is the community-wide yard sale. So that's going to happen the Saturday after Riverfest. It used to happen on the same day as Riverfest, but we can't do both. It's just physically impossible for me to be in both places at one time. So we're doing it the weekend after. And I'm hoping that we had about 20 residences, as well as some businesses having some sales last year. So we're hopefully going to get that many and more. Boggy Draw Beatdown.
And I think we want to, Sarah had told me that she probably wants to do one at the community center as well during that
Okay.
day.
Yeah, that's good.
Like
Yeah, the
maybe a
library
fundraiser
usually
or
does
something.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a few other
yeah.
businesses that do one, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Boggy Draw Beatdown Bike Race. So what we're doing this year for the bike race is we're splitting it up into two separate locations. One being the night before at Joe Rowell Park for packet pickup and camping, as well as the bike rodeo. So all three of those will happen the Friday night of the bike race. And then Saturday morning, the actual race will be at Flanders Park as normal. So we're adding on the night before so that we can have the bike rodeo as well as have the racers pick up their packets and do camping to hopefully get more racers to come in and having the ability to stay here in town because it's hard to get accommodations here. And we do push them out to everywhere, but we end up seeing a lot of the racers tell me that they just go camping up in the forest. And I'd rather have them down here at the park because it's more easier than restaurants and shopping and spending money. So, okay, then we go into Escalante Days and the softball tournament happening the same weekend. So with the construction happening over in Joe Rowell Park starting in June, what we did for the softball tournament is move everything more towards the front end of the park and left open, left the back end not, we're gonna put in cones and make sure it's blocked off if you don't have that blocked off already. But we'll have RVs staying in the first and second lot and the campers over by the pavilion. And then the softball tournament happening in all three of the things there. And then camping will just be the first and second and then the pavilion. Let's see, Escalante Days. So Escalante Days, because of the construction happening in Joe Rowell, it has to be at Flanders Park. So we're doing everything over there. I'm moving the food trucks. Normally they're on 5th Street, right in front of your place and Mama Bear's. So we're gonna move them off into the main parking lot in the front, where the parking was for the main building. So we'll have all the food trucks in that front parking lot and then have everything else pretty much the same.
Is that, open-ended question, is that the best place to put it? And this is just not a fully formed thought, but I'm gonna ask. So if it's in the front there, is it blocking off people seeing it? Because I was
Not really.
wondering, should it be on well, I guess that's a private road, or a road to houses, but over by the Norbert's place or something.
Right.
Is that just too remote?
The permit
Is
for
it,
the liquor
yeah.
license makes it easier if you just make
Okay.
one big box rather than trying to do
That's
something
true,
over
because
here.
we gotta rope it off.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I also thought about putting it on Central Avenue, but with all of the chainsaw competition and other
Yeah,
things
yeah.
happening in the middle of the road, I didn't want people going back and forth trying to get food and then having to deal with that happening.
Yeah.
So, to me, I don't like the parking on 5th Street. To me, it took off parking for people.
Sure.
So I wanted to get them all over there, but in past years, it wasn't feasible to do
Yeah.
so. So my only other issue with Escalante Days will be electrical. Since there's no building to plug into, I gotta figure that out.
There actually is.
There is?
The
Okay.
bathroom with
Okay, at the back, okay,
It has plugs on the back.
Can I ask a
okay.
question?
Sure.
So then, that means that we're probably gonna have to have an officer at the crosswalk. Maybe 2, for the ones down there.
Should be right there at 4th Street.
And 2 years ago, when it was at Flanders, I believe there was an officer there.
Yes,
We're
it
talking
was.
about.
whatever they can do.
Yep. Okay, let's see, then we go into the Harvest Festival, October 4th. Harvest Festival will be back at Flanders Park, and almost the same setup as Escalante Days with the food trucks in the front. And then we will close off between Central Avenue, 4th and 5th Street, and have some kids' games and everything happening in the street there. Along with pumpkin painting, typical things happening, and the bubbles that the firemen bring us on that day. And then the last event for the chamber is the chamber banquet happening October 18th. Usually Halloween themed is what we decided. We always wanted it right around the Halloween time period so people could dress up.
That was fun last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so liquor permits are gonna be for the chamber banquet, Harvest Fest, Escalante Days, Boggy Draw Beatdown, the yard sale, no, Riverfest, yes, but that'll be a different permit, not for me. So,
Who does the dog show?
the,
Dog show retired.
oh, they stopped?
I talked to her last year and she's
Okay.
like, I just can't do it anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only other thing I was worried about, because it usually is the same weekend as Boggy Draw Beatdown,
Yeah.
so we'd be taking the park.
They can't do it anymore here, or they can't do it
No,
anymore.
they're not doing it
here?
anymore anywhere.
Aw.
They, we all get to an age where we don't wanna do stuff like that anymore.
Wow.
She was there and nobody would take over.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do have an additional liquor permit for the bike hostel, so I don't know if it's in my packets or
I've got
anything. Okay.
I didn't see it.
I have another question.
Sorry.
I do have to have an updated application. The state has changed everything around, so you might have to redo all those.
Okay,
Right
can you
now?
give me the form?
You can wait
And I'll
for
get
me
it to
to
you tomorrow, because I was hoping everything was approved today, and so then I could publish, because I've got vendors and
Right.
everyone itching.
Yeah, I would say we're probably not gonna approve today. We need to, please don't publish until we approve. We're gonna talk about it after this and then if I have to give anything.
Okay. I would say the last date in March is gonna be the last go date. I can't push any further than that. So if it doesn't happen, I gotta cancel everything.
Oh, I think
So,
that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still,
We have another meeting
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I think we just, let's just, looks pretty good. I like that we're gonna be able to use Flanders again.
And we'll see how this year's events goes.
I have a question. My memory doesn't serve me well around Harvest Fest. Did we have an officer at Harvest Fest as well?
What day?
Harvest Fest? Did we have
Last year was the end of September, it was at Joe Rowell Park.
Yeah, if there's a special liquor license, we'd have to.
Okay.
Susan, couple questions. One, did you feel okay moving forward? It seems like with the Riverfest last year, without the parking down South Second, it all.
It hurts us not having it there, because it takes away parking from the general public, because now all my vendors have to park in the public parking lot, and all the band members have to park in the public parking lot. So that takes away all those spaces, usually about 30 or so spaces, which is a lot for Joe Rowell Park.
Yeah.
So.
And then, sorry, you said this, but what's the camping plan for the softball tournament? moving forward?
Is to basically, normally in prior years, we'd use the very back of the lot for RVs, and we're
Yeah.
gonna cut that off. So nobody's gonna be able to go to that back lot because of the construction happening for the bike and skate park. So we're gonna move everything off to the first and second lots. The very first one when you first come in, and then
Yeah.
the middle one.
And then what about tent camping?
Tent camping will be by the pavilion, on the grass.
Okay.
So I have another,
Mhm.
sorry. I know it's been suggested a few times that, because what's I see, we have all seen happening, is that the vendors, they come in and they set up, but then they leave their cars in the parks, in the parking spaces where customers would park. So if the vendors could come to the park, offload, take their car to maybe up here behind Zippy's, behind the old bank here, and park in that parking lot or somewhere else, so that there's parking available for the people that attend.
Flanders or Joe Rowell? Which one are you speaking of?
I'm in Flanders.
Flanders.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do tell my vendors to do that, and I tell them to park in the back lot down 5th Street, like where we used to have the bike rodeo. I usually tell them to park there. Now, I can't sit there and police them.
Or they can park here.
Yeah,
I mean, this is empty, they can park
yeah,
here.
yeah,
The town hall.
Because, I mean, that doesn't serve,
right.
really, you know.
What purpose does the community yard sale in Flanders, what connection is there?
The flea market is in Flanders, not the yard sale. The yard sale is all around town.
Okay.
Oh, so,
And I also thought that the Parks Committee was going to kind of meet and decide, you know, capacity for these parks, for Joe Rowell and Flanders. Did you guys ever do that, Kaylin?
Like how many vendors can it hold?
Just capacity of
People,
people. I mean, Escalante Days it's too much for Flanders.
No, I'm not sure about how to,
We can, we have a meeting on Thursday. We can talk about it then.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, we have a Parks meeting on Thursday.
But
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with you, just as someone who's put on 80,000 person events,
Yeah.
that it's too crowded.
Now, I understand for, you know, I guess, yeah, there's construction in the park this summer through fall.
No, well, it starts in July, and it should be done by September.
Okay.
So,
But
but it's in the part by the
Where the-
trail,
right.
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of in the back. I think one of the issues is more toilets, right? Because if we're gonna allow camping, they cannot be pooping in the park.
And if that happens, I ask that parks, they let me know, and we'll take care of it.
Okay. So
we should punish everybody.
are we gonna be talking about this more later and
Yes.
voting on it?
Yep.
Okay, all right, then I'll hold my thoughts.
I'm gonna talk about it in my report, and then we could do the workshop on Monday the 24th,
Okay,
and make that part of that, along with the farmer's market discussion.
okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Okay, anything else?
are you
for me?
good?
Okay.
Thanks,
You,
Susan.
everybody good? Yeah. Thanks, Susan. Town manager, would you like to go? Are you ready? Okay.
Okay, do we have any citizens who just?
Okay, new format? Like it? Don't like it?
Yeah.
Too wordy, too boldy, too?
Great.
Oh, I like it.
Okay, so you heard Susan tonight, and we have our calendar, and I think if it's okay with you all, on the 24th, we can talk about the issues, right? Camping, liquor sales,
Density,
witch park, fencing, sheriff,
density.
yeah,
Yep.
density. And then we can also talk about farmer's market at that time. Yeah. 'Cause
Exciting.
same issues.
Hopefully it's lots of eggs being sold.
Lots of eggs. Thanks to Trustee Wheeler and Mayor Holkstead, they helped, it was Sarah, Courtney
Noah.
Morgan,
Noah.
Noah.
And,
I don't
Heather,
Heather and, what was the gentleman's name? I can't remember.
Scotty.
Scotty.
Yeah, Scott.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got the new oven in. Did you see it today? Didn't go
I'll see
today.
it.
It was Wednesday? Okay. One thing I have to get, the griddle's not quite ready yet, just because we can't clean it.
Gotta always throw out the first
No, she
pancake.
knows that.
Yeah, my pumice stone got thrown out.
And we put up metal siding,
We put up metal sidings. Turns out, at some point there was a fire.
a donut fire.
A donut fire, yeah. Yeah, but it's in there.
Okay.
So, in the Grand Upstates, Nikki and Mary, who are on the committee, gave me the verbiage for the $15,000 grant from Outride that helps us meet our match, which is $157,000 for the parks. And unfortunately, I think Kalen had a big fish, and it kind of fell through because they decided to stay local.
Sniffing the bait.
You tried though, and that's admirable, so thank you.
Yeah, we should hear about that outright grant by June, sometime in the first week of June, I think. We've had, Kelly and I have spent hours and hours and hours on the 9 a.m. Zoom call with Sean Servos from Washington DC FEMA. And we're trying to get, we've got everything settled with our previous treasurer out of all the spots except for the FEMA.gov. So thankfully we have till April 18th, no, April 12th? 18th. So we should be able to have it resolved by then. I had to send our incorporation papers, which happened in 1900, and our, don't say S word today?
Bylaws
Yeah, the bylaws and then,
and the purchase of the building.
yeah, the purchase of the building to prove our address. So since the stone people that were in here before still had that slot, so. We're doing all this for that stormwater engineering design grant, right? Which would be, most grants, like phase 2 may be delayed because the state, I don't know if if you read in what the CML puts out in those little pamphlets that we sometimes deposit in front of you. The state is in deficit by about $1 billion. And so they're starting to find places to cut to, and this is one of those places. So if we don't get the funding from DOLA and CDPHE, then we won't be able to move forward with phase 2.
And our water bills go back down, right?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not.
Because we still have to pay for the engineering, which is $400,000. But if you have a program shovel-ready, you are 9 times more likely to get that grant. And that's where we're trying to get with the stormwater engineering grant, right? At which point we'll have to look at where we had some culvert diversion in 2023, which created that sheet flooding on 21st, 20th, and 19th.
Yep.
So we'll have to look at that from a legal perspective. I was wrong on short-term rental. I didn't understand what I had in front of me. So the license is $250. The initial inspection is free. The inspection otherwise is $40. And then there's a business license, $25. And then the state charges a tax. You're supposed to have a sales tax license. So, interestingly, when I was doing the P&Z meeting, I was looking at different websites to look at their comp plans.
and I ran into Salida's SDR charge of $1,000. I was like, wow, that is a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody saw the email from the resident on Riverside?
Yep.
Yeah, so we've talked to her and we're managing that. Essentially, it's between the two homeowners, right? And
two disparate, two different readings, right? Like, aren't readings coming out different also depending on?
Yeah, I don't know how much, I mean, she has a quick claim deed for her
Okay.
part of that. It's a little bit complicated, but until that part ends, then, so it is why, it's one of the sort of unfortunate things, right? So people go, why do we have to have a survey to put in a fence? This is why, right? So I'm gonna put in a fence at my house, I'm gonna have to get a survey. And it's an unfortunate cost to do the survey, but it will save you more in the end when you're not in a lawsuit. Question? So Question? Doesn't Colorado have some pretty strict laws about snow coming off of people's roofs into other people's yards? Seems to me that there's some kind of, I don't actually know, do you know, John?
There's some easement law that you can't create some kind of a natural snow slide onto your neighbor's property, but that's why we have setbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my-
should he have had a setback?
I don't, I'm not familiar with all of the facts in that lawsuit. Obviously, the town is not a party to it. In that particular situation, a survey would have probably resulted in.
That was permitted, correct?
That's what is alleged, that it was permitted by
it was permitted.
the previous manager and was allowed to be constructed at that location. But part of the issue is that area on Riverside, there's two different monuments to use as a starting point. And Fred Thomas is a surveyor, was using one monument. He's no longer with us. Passed away a number of years ago, but he was probably using the incorrect monument when he was doing those surveys. But that error, when you look at some of the things that are happening with those lot lines, I think that was going on a lot longer than he was around. So,
It's like Rico.
yeah. Precisely. The story is that the geologic survey that came in did set some of those monuments. They were camping out in Rico and doing more drinking at the Enterprise than they were surveying. So,
This definitely,
yeah.
that's a pretty bad situation there.
It is.
I went by it a few times and it's like, my God, this is avoidable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dumping right on their property.
Well, but it's like my next door neighbor has a giant garage and all the all the snow comes into my yard
Yeah.
from their roof. I mean, you know that how big the house is. So it's just
So what's the solution?
luck of the draw.
We have to wait for them to finish the lawsuit, but we can definitely get some more information for you, so that we can at least get our set of facts straight. So some things to consider, because there's also a number of properties that have, that are on town, their yard comes out into town property. And so we have that issue also, that if we had big snowstorms or whatever, it would not be, it makes it more difficult for us to get around and put snow where we want to put it, as opposed to the only place it'll fit, because there's so much stuff in town property. So,
Do you think those people know, or do they need to be informed or anything? Like, not that there's any action, but like, hey, just FYI, this
Right.
may go in the future, but you have built on town property.
we can certainly.
Or just curious if we should at least inform people rather than surprise them later.
Yeah, and that's kind of, there's been, since I've been the town attorney, there's been maybe close to a half a dozen of those situations that have come up, and we've kind of dealt with it.
Okay.
I mean, as we've learned about it, we have dealt with it. But unfortunately, it's happened either just inadvertently, or in some cases, a previous town official has just allowed it
Yeah.
to happen.
Well, we'll just
But there's no adverse possession against the town. So if we need to, use all of the street or town property in the future, we can do
Alright.
that.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention, so. Okay, so 43 Porter Way. We have determined that they don't have enough information in their site plan for us to make a good decision about whether they can move forward, so we will not make the April 1st deadline. I will call them tomorrow. We talked about moving, it may be seen if we could do a continuance to move it to the 14th, because they're anxious to get started, even though their builder says it might take a month to build. So this is a tier 3 geological report, so there's a couple things in here. We have talked to Cap Allen, who's an engineer in the area, about this and those cuts and curves that we've talked about as a team. And then we have also talked to Nancy Dosdahl, which she has presented in front of you guys before, about I'm not equipped to do a tier 3 geological report to the to the planning and zoning board or to this board. It is above my ability to report at this point. So we still have to make sure that the designs meet the standards. There's some information on their architectural designs that doesn't make sense to our engineer. And so we're gonna send that back to them after he puts together a report for us. So, any questions about that?
And maybe you mentioned this, but you had said that great, it's their land, they're gonna build, but we will sign paper saying, you
For
know the
easement?
risks.
Oh,
And this
that's part of what Cap Allen is putting together.
Oh, okay,
for
okay.
us, yeah.
Yeah, so you know
Yeah.
the risk, and the risk sits with you. Yeah.
The risk of flooding there at the bottom of the cave.
Yeah, or the
Well-
mud. It's mud, really. That's the issue.
Yeah,
there.
so in speaking with Cap Allen, it's more mud
We
coming into that
it is.
area.
We just want it
than
to come
is
back to the
water.
town after we've
Sure.
given warnings and suggestions.
Right. So that's something that I'll be discussing with John, and then we'll come before you so that we can say, hey, here's what we found by our engineer, because the numbers are different.
Okay.
So,
And one of the main objectives of this is to protect our infrastructure and water treatment plant.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
sewer treatment
Right.
plant.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you have the public hearings and ordinances, those are all, they all need a public hearing, so any questions about those? This is the second reading for this, what I'm calling the Zoom ordinances. So one of the things that you might consider is, we say public for town meetings, but do we want to make sure everybody identifies themselves? Residents, business owners, property owners, that could be a policy as opposed to something in the ordinance, because it's a bit restrictive if you do it that way. So if you have discussion about that when these ordinances come up, that would be the time. We also have 586, which is the second and final reading of the new Dolores marijuana code. Then John will discuss the first liquor code. And then I think I briefly discussed the Schum's Coda and the MOU with the school district. So those are passed through on expenses. It's a way so that they can get their plans approved and start moving before the state. The state is 9 months behind, and they'll miss they have to start and finish in a 2-year window. And if they don't, then their grant won't be happy. Not sure what happens, but. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Okay.
Building inspector,
Mhm.
new building inspector.
Mhm.
How's that process going right now?
It's good. So I've met with him probably 4 or 5 times. He's met with John, he's met with the mayor. It's gonna be a partnership with Menka, so He'll meet with Makis, and then we'll do the final negotiation of the contract, and we'll be
And
ready
you
to
hire
go.
him, we don't hire him, I forget. I
That's
thought-
right, I hire him.
I gotcha, I thought that was an appointed position, but.
Will we get to meet him?
No!
At least.
Well, this
Yeah,
person is still
He's
employed,
still
so it doesn't
employed,
wanna
and that's
really
part of the
publicize it
problem,
yet.
you'll absolutely get to meet him.
Yep.
And I think you'll think he's a great guy, he's from, so he was a building inspector in Coconino County, which is everything but Flagstaff. And he's got years of experience on both sides, construction side and inspection side.
Okay.
And, sometimes it's nice not being from here.
Yeah.
Because you don't,
Yeah.
everybody's the same to you, you don't know anybody, or, there's nobody asking for a favor,
Right.
Right.
so,
Come find me. Yeah.
Okay.
nobody asking me for a favor. Okay.
Alright.
I have a couple other candidates I'm gonna talk to, but they're not qualified.
Oh,
So they have no building code experience.
it's kind of helpful.
What's that?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Kind of helpful to have
Yeah,
experience.
you gotta have at least some, at
Yeah.
least the first course.
Right, yeah.
This guy's a building inspector 3, which is actually, you're a 1? Building inspector 1?
I'm on the fire side of things, he's on the.
He's on the, gotcha.
I feel like I saw that a job rec for Cortez open too for,
Building inspector and engineer.
oh, maybe engineer.
Yeah, they lost their engineer. Their engineer is the gentleman that just bought 96 Central. The guy you met on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Anything
he
else?
is an engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. Okay, walking away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Okay. Okay, so, just a couple of things here. We're gonna have a public hearing today on a liquor license renewal, and then presumably here on the 24th, right? We're gonna have a public hearing on an application for all the special events that were presented. So just keep in mind, when you guys are doing a public hearing like that, you're sitting in a quasi judicial capacity, you're all judges in black robes, okay? So kind of imagine you're the Supreme Court sitting up there, making a decision. So what that means is that when you do these quasi judicial hearings, you listen to the evidence that's presented to you. Judges don't go out and gather evidence outside what's presented, okay? It's important, and you're also kind of sitting as a jury. So it's important not to be doing any outside research, to be discussing that amongst yourselves prior to your determination, and, just come to those public hearings with an open mind, okay? So, for example, with a liquor license renewal, staff will present. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to say what they want to say, and then that's opened up for the public to present any comments or any evidence pro or con that they might want to present. And then you guys go ahead and make a decision on the renewal. So in the packet today is a letter from me just kind of explaining with our current liquor code, kind of what the options are, all right? And we're in the process of, trying to figure out some revisions to that liquor code. That, was written at a time when, we're pretty much taking a hands-off approach and letting the state, take the lead on that, so there's not a lot of options under the current code. So, on special events, last year, we updated the special events permitting process. And if you go to the town website, you just Google Town of Dolores ordinances, look on the right-hand column for ordinance 579. That would be a really good one to get familiar with before the meeting on the 24th for special events. So when we redid that last year, you could look at not only capacity, you can take a look at, we have a lot of different tools for public safety. So you can talk about law enforcement, you can talk about porta potties, so nobody's pooping in the park. Okay, we can address all those things under that ordinance. We don't want that happening, for sure. So it'd be good to come, take a gander through that between now and the next meeting. And Lee briefly touched on this with the Zoom, kind of codifying in that ordinance what we're gonna be doing with future Zoom meetings. If you kind of think about, how statutes and policies and work, that ordinance is kind of building a framework, and then you guys can adopt some formal or informal policies around how to apply that. And precisely that, I think it would be good to just have a policy as a board that if you're going to take public comment, that you require people on Zoom and in the meeting to give their name, state what their residence is. And that's also not only to help you identify, whether or not you're hearing from a citizen or somebody from Glenwood Springs that might have an opinion about what you're doing. So also, I think that's a really good way when you require people to put their name and address in there to avoid some of those unfortunate disruptions that have happened with other cities and municipalities in the past with, I think what happened with the county, for example. Just adopt a policy to try to make sure you're dealing with a real person that wants to provide legitimate public comment.
And I talked to Mayor Medina, and she said the same thing, that they require that because they've had instances where there's a hot button issue and somebody calls in and lives in Phoenix, but they just want to be heard.
Right.
And that is a little bit less relevant than somebody that lives in Cortez or Mancos or Dolores and is a resident.
Right. Exactly. Now, we can't, if we're gonna open, we're gonna hold public comment. Somebody comes up from Phoenix and they just have an opinion that they're have a burning desire to express, we can't deny them their First Amendment right to say that. If we open up a forum, we've got to let everybody into the forum.
But it provides context.
But provides some context, absolutely. Yep. So the marijuana code is on its second reading. I'll discuss the revisions to the liquor code. There's some rough draft concepts in there. We'll present that soon for first reading on some changes to the liquor code. And then, this is probably going to come as a surprise to Lee, but we've been talking about revisions to the code. I think the next really relevant one to take a look at is how we do code enforcement and how those things get cited and brought into municipal court. And when I was talking to Lars Forsyth.
No.
Yep. That may be a good one to take a look at and just kind of, because if we have kind of a hodgepodge of that, and then who was it that mentioned are these positions appointed? Was that Linnea or Chris? Okay. Good question. Because what's really odd about how the code is set up is we hire somebody and then the code, you are correct, the code does kind of appoint some hats. And so you hire somebody and then, there's a hat that goes on that person's head. The way the code is drafted now, you kind of do pass a resolution and put a hat in somebody's head. But they're still an employee that's hired by the manager. So to try to make that less confusing with how that's done and with code enforcement would be a really good thing to maybe tackle next after the liquor code. So I completely agree with you, it confuses me. So,
I always thought the town did it. Enforced code.
The town?
Town staff.
So, code enforcement, and let's just talk about the building code. You've got a building official. The building official, finds a violation. So if somebody's building a house, for example, and they didn't pull a permit, or there is some kind of a public safety hazard in a public place, like a a restaurant or something that poses a fire danger, the building official may cite that person, and, you know, they can be fined or red tagged or what have you. Then you've got the land use code, so maybe there's a land use code violation, okay? And then there's a nuisance code, maybe there's a nuisance code violation. So what we're trying to do is just clarify whose responsibility is to do what, and, you know, make that more of a streamlined, clear process. And Lars had a great idea, I thought was just fantastic, was maybe give the code official the ability to kind of work out sort of an informal adjustment or a diversion, if you would. So if the code official finds a significant violation, you could write up a contract, an agreement with that person that says, okay, I'm admitting that there's a violation. You know, the backyard is full of 50-gallon oil drums.
Yeah.
I agree that's a problem, but you're giving me 90 days or 180 days to comply. And if there's not compliance, then we get cited into municipal court and we deal with it there. But that's a way to kind of, you know, be a little bit more, I don't know if humane is the right word for it, but try to get some compliance without being a little bit too heavy-handed with things, so. And that's something we could build into when we talk about code enforcement, a little more discretion with the official that's doing the investigation. Did you guys do that in Cortez?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't have anything built into the code to do that, so. No. So that's my report.
All right.
Give you
Thank
more
you.
on the liquor code and the rest of
Can I
that.
just get a clarifying question? You were saying that the town of Dolores, the manager Lee, hires the building inspector, but then we have to weigh in on that hire? Is that what you were saying? Pat on that building inspector?
No. But there are some code provisions that are really kind of outdated for the system that we have now. So, you know, there's a zoning official, for example.
Yeah.
And under the current code, the zoning official is appointed. Generally, that's the town manager. So, you know, the building official, we just need to clarify how these people get into their roles.
And currently, we don't have good, clear.
We've got some inconsistencies in how that's done.
Gotcha. More to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
you're up, Kelly.
Just as a side note, Chris, that all of the code enforcement ordinances that we currently have were in the packet for the workshop last month. That were in the package of research and data that came along with the workshop. Those codes are all printed in that packet, so you can review those.
Okay, hopefully.
Thank you.
So, all right, so you should have in front of you the budget analysis. And I think, not that,
The charts?
it's gonna look like this.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a quick question on the order of things in this packet as to how they get called out? I'm like, I feel like I'm just scrolling up and down and up and down. And I'm like, where?
Well, it doesn't follow the agenda.
Never follows seemingly how you guys come out and present it, because I'm constantly scrolling up and down. And
That one.
it would be nice to have like a finance, or like, you know, like a header to show that, oh, I'm in the finance area.
We
I'm-
matched the agenda to the packet. And there are several reports, like Kelly's got a few different things. But we do our best to match all of the packet to the agenda. So you shouldn't have any problems.
I was just hearing John's, and that's below Kelly's. And then we went manageries was just above Kelly's.
Well, it depends on how it's called in the order.
Oh,
by
not
the-
finance particular, the order of the presentations? Chris?
Or, yeah, how they
Yeah.
come and present
Oh,
it
yeah.
and where it is in the
Got it.
packet.
Yeah.
Just it seems like I'm
I
always
see.
just going up and down looking for where I want to
Yeah.
be. But it's when there's like 100 pages, it's like, holy moly, where am I here?
Mm-hmm.
But sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
Just maybe we can keep working on that.
Well, part of that too is because there were a couple of things in there that were very, very long.
Mm-hmm.
So you did
Yeah.
have to scroll through a lot of pages, but, I mean, that just came with the agenda.
But I get it, you could have a break between each one, say, this is John's,
It would be
this is
easier
Kelly's,
to
sort
see
of.
it perhaps. I mean, I'm scrolling slow, just try to find it, and sometimes it's confusing when they're out of order sometimes, it seems.
Well, I try to put the order of whoever's,
Next,
it depends on how you're gonna call it out.
sorry.
Yeah, we'll work on it, Chris, I understand
No,
what you're saying.
that would be helpful.
I used
that's
to
all.
do it too.
Yeah, it's a lot of paper sometimes.
I think I got
Yeah.
a tip for you, I'll tell you later.
Yeah,
I think I figured out something.
nice.
You tell me to.
Okay,
Back to
so, go ahead.
it. Back to it.
All right, yeah, so I have, this chart that you should have there in front of you. And so what you can see is the February numbers, and then you'll have what was expected for February. So the majority of what is expected is based on it being 1/12 of the budgeted amount. So for example, the licenses, I took what we budgeted for licenses for the year and divided it by 12, which of course would be the amount for 1 month. Now, the longer that I'm here, the more I will average those out so that we can see some of the ebbs and flows that are seasonal or annual. But I've made a note of the ones that I've done that way. Sales tax is one, Parks and Rec is another, and then off to the side in the rationale column, you can see the comments that are related to why we are on track or ahead or behind track for what we were expecting for February. So the first column is February's actual numbers. The second column is what we were expecting in February, the percentage or how close we came to our expectation, and then why. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me about those, but I believe that most of those explanations are there to the side for you to review. Were there any questions?
Looks like community center's doing all right.
Yep, and so the community center has some solid numbers this month. We did have 3 annual payers. So they're people who use the community center every month, and they paid for the entire year this month. So we did have like the senior citizen group, they wrote their check for this month, and a couple of other large payers that we won't see that high of a revenue every month because they're done for the year. Similarly with expenditures, the community center bought their oven this month, so we saw a lot more going out than we normally would. So. Were there any other questions?
Kelly? Good.
Mark,
Yeah.
I'm just curious if we could have in future a year-to-year comparison, like
Sure.
February 24 versus February 25.
I would be happy to do that.
Well, I was gonna say something similar, but not, which is year to year is great, but February is a point in time.
Mhm.
So like we talked about, it's nice to see, and I think you have it in here. So we've had January and February. When we get to March, we'll have 3 months in.
Right.
So if you're just showing us February or March, that's a point in time, but how are we doing in aggregate for the year?
Correct.
Right, and that's the other chart, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, and so we can go on to the charts if you would like to, and so you can see a little bit, this is just to get for people who see process data a little bit better visually, where we are at as far as our revenues for January and February. January's green, February's gold, and our purple or blue line was our expected. And so I actually used the February expected. January was high in franchise, as we remembered, we talked about last month, Atmos paid for the year. You can see community center was high due to those large payments. Water and sewer are a little bit low. And I did go in and do an evaluation of the last 5 years to see how that compared to this previous period, and we still are a little bit low as in comparison, but we should start to see that rise since August, September are our highest months for water sewer. And the other bar chart, so it's gonna skip one, is going to be the exact same concept where you have January and February, and then our expected expenditures will be in there. And so you can see in January, the staff salaries was slightly higher. If you remember, that was due to our year-end bonuses came out on the January check. Otherwise, there is the water operations that was a significant difference, and that's our roof from January. Otherwise, we're coming in below on most of our expenditure, less than our expectation. So we spent less than we were hoping or
With
planning.
water operations?
Pardon?
With water operations?
With everything so far, yeah.
Okay.
So we have a little high on community center, that's our oven.
Yeah.
The water was, if you can see the blue line was our roof, but then when you come to purple, we already are under by about half. So kind of trying to make up that a little bit. So it should start to even out. And then your two pie graphs that you have, well, I guess you have, this one is the expenditures by category. You can see what a large chunk, salaries, benefits, taxes, all that plays in there. And then I'll say there is the one for revenues. So you can just to kind of give you a visual idea where most of our money comes from, taxes and water sewer. And then everything else plays a small role, but not significant in comparison. Any questions? Does this data, is it help to look at it visually this way?
I like it.
Okay, so next month I'll add in a year to year, and then we'll have the quarter that we can do a comparison on as well. And then hopefully I'll just keep adding those explanations so you can review them prior to the meeting. Come up with any questions for me?
As I always ask you, are you feeling good?
I am.
So we're on track.
We're on track.
Okay, then you feel good, I feel good. All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
Kelly.
The Honorable Commissioner is up next.
Are you gonna ask me?
Dazzling
Feeling
us.
good?
Are you feeling good? Let's wait to see what you have to report, and then I'll ask you.
Well, I got all kinds of things to talk about, but here again, I'll be as quickly as possible. We had a long workshop today. We had 4 hours worth of workshop, a lot of department head reports, just to bring up some of the stuff that CSU is working on. Because they were doing a lot of community outreach for us right now. They're doing cattle, crops, and coffee. They're having coffee almost like what we're doing with the commissioners, but for the agricultural community. It's more of a safe coalition, just for impactful conversation about agriculture and community, local farmers, ranchers in Montgomery County. So look at their website, that's on there. They've got some agritourism workshops, Saturday, March 8th from 11 to 1. There are seed starting for vegetable gardens, you know, as costs rise for everybody around here, trying to help plan and make it to where you can all grow your own food. Kind of back to the Victory Gardens they used to have, I think it was in World War II. Livestock and forage grower update, not that it affects you all too much in this little community, but actually it really does because we get a lot of local producers in here and through your farmers market also. Our road department's gonna do 18.1 miles of chip seal this year. It's kind of what we have slated as long as the oil prices stay where they're at. That's always to be determined, but we'll lock that in as soon as possible and get that done as quickly as we can.
Where is that happening, excuse me? The 18 miles?
If you look at his website now, because, well, hold on just a minute.
No, you don't have to, I was just curious.
They'll be mostly on roads that we paved about 5 years ago in 2019.
Gotcha.
So that we're putting just a single layer over them to preserve them longer so that we actually get a better lifespan out of them.
Nice.
So that's mostly where those are going on.
Nice.
Can I ask what the budget is for that?
You don't want to know.
I'm good.
What the budget is for it? Is it paved in gold?
Oil is pretty much liquid gold.
Yeah.
So yes, it is. I mean, but it is a lot less than asphalt, just for a couple different reasons. One is we have our own crushers, we have our own mines. And we do all the work ourselves except for the application of the oil and the transportation of it. So we do pretty good. But it does cost a lot of money.
Maybe I missed it, but you, did you say where that was gonna happen?
I was gonna tell him, but if you just go on to the Road and Bridges website,
Okay.
it'll show you, because there's a bunch of different roads that
I
it's
was
gonna
gonna say,
go
it's
on.
probably a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it equals up to 18.1 miles.
Nice.
Obviously, we had a report from our sheriff in our corner. The corner, right now, things are looking good. Deaths are down, so everybody's staying upright, and that's a good thing right now in our community as this community starts to age. I'm gonna give you kind of a briefing, just real quick for us as far as it goes to our federal partners. So I was in Washington last week, and it was fast and furious. Let me tell you, the mood back there is pretty unsettled. But I will tell you from being back there for a week, a lot of what I got out of it is just, we all need to just take a breath, somewhat relax. You know, the horses run away, they're pulling back the reins. This is my analogy. And when they get it figured out, then they'll give the reins back to the horse and let the horse walk. But some of the emails and the conversations that were sent to me as I was back there were a lot about the federal firefighters. Well, the firefighters are all funded. So everything from the BLM and the Forest Service, those positions are all filled or being filled as we were talking last week. So none of those have been cut, and they're all moving forward.
Can I ask about that? Not necessarily the Forest Service. I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
The question I'm getting more often is if the hospital is at risk. Because so much of it comes from
Medicaid.
federal and state funding. Yeah, Medicaid, yeah.
Medicaid is basically where that.
Have you heard
funding comes
anything?
from. So I did. So we were able to have a conversation with the representative or Congressman Crank, and here again, and I'll try to give his analogy of the whole thing. There is so much bureaucracy in the way it's administered right now. So say I'm trying to get $10 to you. I need to get $10 to you, but it's costing me $6 to administer it, and you're getting $4. It needs to change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
No
So,
doubt, but if
answer
the
your
hospital
question,
closes, then it's impactful.
It's not, I don't think that's their intention at all. I think it's to try and capture the waste and to keep it more efficient.
Yeah.
So I don't, and here again, that's way above my pay grade, but that's kind of the consensus that I got, because that was one of the 3 questions that the Colorado delegation asked specifically that CCI had voted on. One was transportation, because we are the least funded transportation in rural Colorado as it affects rural Colorado Region 5. We're at the bottom of the barrel. But statewide, still transportation is a big deal. The Front Range has a ton of population that they're moving around all the time. TANF, SNAP, was a big concern to a lot of people, and then obviously Medicaid. So that was done. There were 60 commissioners that went out there. We broke into groups of 6, and we tried to hit as many congressmen, senators as we possibly can. And we did. We hit as many as we could on Tuesday at Capitol Hill. So we were all doing a lot of running around as fast and furious as we could. So I don't think, I know there's a lot of worry. But if they can get the money to where it really needs to be and cut the red tape, I mean, you can ask your manager, how much bureaucracy do we go through half of this stuff that we do? And I think that's the issue. Sometimes there's more of that. So I'm going to get to that just a little bit here. So one of the things that the BLM stated as far as their regulatory responsibilities in NEPA, but some of the things that they're trying to do is to get things out quicker. Well, that was a statement. I had to raise my hand to say, well, what is quicker? Is that now 3 years, 5 years? What does it actually mean? Right? What does it mean? So he came back and answered it. He goes, for the EA, the environmental assessments, 2 years or less, which is quicker, but it's still a long period of time. And everything else to 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit to anybody that's trying to do any projects. He then touched on housing, on property that the BLM has holdings on, which for us in Montezuma County, I don't think you have any BLM property that would possibly even work for you all. It's not going to for us because it's not close to any kind of infrastructure. There's no water, there's no power, there's no sewer. I mean, it would be a would be a stretch, but in some places it would work. So SRS to us, Secure Rural Schools, their reauthorization hasn't been done even for 24. So the payments that we currently get like in April or May, that hasn't even been reauthorized, so we don't know if we're gonna get those at all, which is just another funding decrease. And I think I've told you how that is divided out. 25% of that goes to the schools, which is all 3 school districts. 25% to road and bridge, and then 50% is discretionary to the commissioners, whether we spend it in schools, roads, or that kind of safety. PILT is also something else that has not been taken care of. Hopefully it will be reauthorized and get put back into that too, and that's for us, it's a payment in lieu of taxes. So we get a lot of money from our federal partners, because like I've told you, I think in the past, right now, the conversion that we get is 48 cents per acre for federal lands. So you all know what you pay for your taxes, that's all the feds are paying for theirs, and we're 73% federal or public lands in Montezuma County. So it's significant to us in our budget of how it affects it if we get or we don't get these types of fundings. But again, the big takeaway for me, which was one of the big questions that I had, were what are they going to do with all the wildland firefighters on the feds, on the BLM and the Forest Service side? Both of those guys said nothing has been cut from them and everything is moving forward. And I'll stop with that. I'll answer any questions that you guys might have.
Jim, do you have it's along the same lines as the firefighters. Are you personally concerned about the impact of the cuts, the federal cuts, in the Park Service and the management of the federal lands and the public lands and the Forest Service at this point on the ability of those agencies to continue to manage the outdoor recreation and the impact on public resources, on natural resources?
So we had Derek Padilla, the BLM, the head of the BLM, come in, I think a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but he said right now they'd only lost one job, which was just a brand new job, but it hasn't significantly affected them at all. And he gave us a presentation of what they're trying to do out at Field World. They're going to cut off a couple of trails to motorized and reposition them somewhere else to where it makes it better out at Field World. And I asked him that question, how is this going to affect you? I haven't heard back from the district ranger for the Forest Service, but if those guys are not fearful right now, then I'm going to have to, they know what's happening anyway.
Yeah.
Again, one of the things you guys have to realize is that in our area, we kind of really lack funding anyway, just because we're kind of at the bottom of the barrel, to say. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that they have
There's not a lot of fat to be cut from our...
Well, in our area, probably not, but in some of the other agencies and areas, there probably is. And here again, I can't tell you how that evaluation is going to happen, but I can tell you that Derek didn't say that it was anything significant to them at this point in time.
So, is there any concern around, cutting funding for housing for HUD? I know that there's some contention going on there. Is that a funding issue?
I didn't really get into any of the conversations with housing as far as cuts for funding for housing. But as they're looking at everything, I'm sure they're going to try and administer the money that needs to get out there and get rid of the fat. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So even just like Medicaid, if they can be more efficient, that's what they're trying to get rid of.
So, but I mean, locally, are you interested in cutting back on funding for HUD, for housing locally?
I don't have a concern with that right now at all.
What are they doing to Phil's World? They're motorizing it. When you said that, you mean so people can drive through, or motorcycle?
Philsville does have motorized trails in it, right?
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
Well, they're cutting
wanna
out, I
have
think you
more.
said a mile.
Oh.
They're taking a mile out, because it just is not working well, I guess. But they're moving some of them so that they're not, the total reduction is just a little over a mile.
Yeah.
And they're repositioning some of the other trails, so you can still use motorized vehicles out there. When I'm out there riding specifically, I'll typically hear a motorcycle, sometimes a quad, but it's pretty rare too. I don't hear a lot of activity out there.
You just a lot of guns. Just a lot of guns.
My dog does not like those guns.
So.
You can shoot it?
There's a gun range nearby.
Well, the gun range next.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. That's anything going on with? Oh, sorry, Sheila. Go ahead.
No, so I'm not getting this thing with Phil's World. So why are they cutting out some of the trails? They don't want motorized vehicles on those trails? Is
They
that-
already have motorized vehicles out there.
Right, they do
They're
that.
just some of the intersections, if you've ever been out there, I assume you have.
No.
Hiked it, biked it, walked it, rode
Walked
it.
a long time ago, but not.
Well,
not-
there's a lot of intersecting trails out there that intersect the actual bike path with the crossing of a trail. And it kind of sounds like it's just gonna make it better.
Safer.
If they will make this reduction. And they're not cutting it off. They're rerouting some of it to make it better. But there is a reduction of a mile. So out of the total area, and he didn't tell me what that was. I've got a map I can share with you, or I'll send it to you via email, that it will be a reduction of a mile.
Yep.
We didn't seem to have any heartburn with any of that at all, and I didn't think anybody else would. I know what you're gonna ask. The sheriff's sale was probably.
I was gonna ask about the freeholders.
About what?
Freeholders. It seems like that's coming up again. Isn't that what it's
The
called?
The free landholders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like it's still bubbling.
The Forest Service or the feds have filed a suit. That is in litigation now, so when that comes up to them, I really don't know where it is. It's in a judge's, or it will be in a judge's court here.
It seems like that and the solar farm keeps bubbling.
It's bubbling.
Okay.
Very, very, yes, it's bubbling. That's a good
rolling boil. As a rolling boil.
Rolling boil. But as far as Ironwood, the sheriff's sale did not take place on February 27th. Apparently it was pulled off by the attorneys, and now I guess it's rescheduled for sometime
27th of this
later this month. So
March
here again,
27th, 10 o'clock.
we will see what happens. I did actually drive around the entire county yesterday on the northern western side. Again, like I told you guys, those piles look so much better than what we had up there previously. And that was all the 900 loads that they had distributed over the entire property. Those are all nice, neat little piles, and it looks a lot better than what we did have. And those, if they do combust, they're not gonna fly for miles and miles like a kite. So that's kind of a short update on that. And then Sheila, go ahead, you have one more? Sorry? Okay.
I do. Quickie. Who do I contact about buying compost?
Good question, because that was just brought up in our meeting today too. Just call the landfill.
Call the landfill, that's
And they
what
will, he's got some ready to go. But I will tell you that because of CDPHE and them raising their rates on us for the testing processes that we have to do for the PFAS, I think is what he called it, don't quote me on that. But it probably will be going up to $40 a yard. Is that what they sell it for?
Yeah.
Which is way less
Screaming deal.
than you go buy it in those 40-pound bags. It'll cost you a little more than that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
get it at the landfill. They do have some.
Okay.
It's getting ready.
Getting your garden ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great stuff.
It is good stuff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna do trustees' reports real quick. I'll start. I just had a couple questions. John, first one's for you. This is my third follow-up question. What's happening with the 11th Street house?
Okay, so I am wondering if the gentleman has passed away, so I have not gotten a response.
And Medicare is not responding, or Medicaid?
There has
whatever.
been no movement on that estate. Nothing has happened with it. No response to my inquiries, so.
So what's our recourse for an empty house that is just
Will have the taxes been paid?
just there?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we, end up doing a nuisance abatement on it, a lien can be put on the house, okay? And like any other lien, it can be foreclosed on. So that's an option as
All
well.
right.
Yep,
I mean, it's basically our town cleanup at a bigger level.
it is our town cleanup.
You know, it is a
So,
flammable house filled with stuff, and the yard is filled with stuff, and there's a derelict car on the property.
Mhm.
So it's just probably something we need to further follow up and
Yeah.
do something.
I'll keep moving, I'm trying
I feel like
to
we've
figure out
talked
if
about
there's a
this for a
live
year.
here somewhere.
Yeah.
Eminent domain?
Yeah, okay, second one, is everybody mentally ready for March 22nd, trustees?
Yes.
Everybody who's not gonna be there on the 22nd for coffee? Everybody? Okay, cool.
As long as I can make the commute.
Yeah,
Might be a little
What
rough.
day of the week is that?
Saturday.
All right.
I will
9
be
to
picking
11.
you up.
What are you doing?
Yeah, if Linnea cannot walk over, I will pick her up, throw her in the back. Also, in Mancus by the library, I thought it was kind of a good idea, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion. Right outside the library, they have something called the free pantry, and I opened it up, and it had like dried beans and household goods, things like that people donate. So there's a lot of canned goods and stuff. I thought we have a little library box, but I wondered if we should maybe get one of those going for people that there was a whole bunch of diapers in there for infants and stuff. So I just thought it was a good idea. So I wanted to see if we thought we might want to try something like that and just have, as the economy is a bit tougher, like maybe.
Let's bring the free box back.
Well, the
The
free
problem
box was
with that-
bad because people were taking it and eBay and stuff.
Well, and they were dumping garbage.
Yeah, and people were dumping garbage.
Yeah.
So,
Someone
people
has
would
to
leave
take control of
skis,
it.
somebody would go pick it up, and it would be on the Dolores for sale within 10 minutes, which was not really the intention. But I agree with you. But the free box, but this one, the pantry, is more like household staples that are getting expensive that people might use. Anyway, just a thought if we wanted to do that.
Maybe a workshop topic?
Yeah, maybe. And maybe we just say there's certain things that are more required for the town, whether they're diapers or canned goods or whatever. If you have donations, just put it there. I think it's nice to help out the townspeople. And that's all I have. Kaylin.
Quickly, just as an update and reminder, I am the town rep on the Mount Dolores Coalition. Again, I was involved in getting that all rolling, but I actually have another role, and that is being representative for the town of Dolores. So should I finally retire from my life of public service and or die, it'd be nice for somebody to step in and be on the coalition representing the town. There's representatives from each of the municipalities in the 2 counties, and as well as from the counties themselves and the county boards, and they're doing very, very good work. This is, again, it's the regional initiative that is part of the statewide, much larger initiative for the Colorado Outdoor Project. It's that is came out of Polis's office initially, but it is it's to develop regional and then through the region's statewide plan to try to manage the impact of the exponential growth of outdoor recreation in the state on our natural resources, and to try to stay ahead of the game on these things. There are regional partnerships like the Mount Dolores Coalition throughout the state. Most counties in the state, most of the regions in the state now have these partnerships. We just completed, hired Gabe Preston from RPI, who has done, facilitated a process of developing a regional strategy that is in its final draft. Not final, but it is in draft form. We'll be reviewing it through the coalition. It will become public pretty soon. Eventually, those things tend to go to the counties for the approval of the county boards, and then those things go to the state as part of the state plan. Michelle Fury, who most of you know, has been our director. She's done an absolutely outstanding job. She is cutting back, trying to get a life for herself once again. So we have hired a new director, Kara Gilder. If you know Kara, and Kara will be great. And Kara will start this month. Michelle will stay on part-time, but
Or Carol?
Kara?
Yeah, she lives here.
So that, yeah, it's a good project, and I can get you some more information. When this plan, this strategy comes out for public review and stuff, it's very impressive.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's my.
Awesome. Anything else?
Did you take one and pass it?
No, not for me, thanks.
All right. Sheila.
Yeah, I'm getting it together. A lot going on.
Sure are. Somebody's so busy.
I just, an interesting article about Cortez asks for public input on its Safe Streets plan.
Sorry.
So I thought, reading over this, I thought, maybe there's something in here that we could use for Dolores. Because what they're concerned about, their issues are speeding, running stop lights and stop signs, distracted driving, poor yield to pedestrians, intoxicated driving, lack of road stripping, and visibility issues. So that might be something that we might all want to look into, and there's a website there that you can go to look at that. And they're going to have a draft available for public review on the 31st of this month. And then the second thing, and Mr. Candelaria, you might want to lead for this discussion because it's something that's coming up on P&Z.
Okay, I'll go home and eat. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, you can always go on Zoom later and look at it.
If it's quasi-judicial, just as your attorney said, you shouldn't be listening to it, and I won't either.
I know. What can I say? So this is something of which to be concerned. And this is a glamping tent center planned near Mancos. And you'll read there that they first asked for 141 acres and now they're asking for 324. Dolores is 425 acres. That's 79 acres short of the acreage that makes up this entire town. Glamping is a high-priced, how do I want to call it? it's tent camping, it's like safaris, safari camping. I suggest you please Google this and read about it. Their core value is to profit off of big money campers and places of beauty. They have 13 locations already. They bring in over $8 million a year. The water usage alone will be astronomical. But like you read, like it says here about the developers that are bypassing zoning, safety, and fire mitigation standards, all while putting pressure on remote areas outside of developed towns and cities. This thing would be a tent town, basically, because everybody's going to have their own toilet. Everybody's going to, well, except for a few tents, they're going to have their own bathroom. They have their own restaurant. They have all. It's huge. So they have 80, it's a minimum of 80 tents usually for a location, but they have an inventory of 600 tents. So 325 acres, if this should pass, we're looking at a tent city, basically. So I suggest you please look at this. There'll be a meeting on the 13th, that's this Thursday at 6 o'clock at the Cortez Chambers. And for P&Z, and they're going to make suggestions to the commissioners. So this is a time to look at this, and people will say, oh, well, this will be good for the community and businesses. No, not necessarily, no. You've got to think through this. You got to think beyond profit. Look at what's happening with the land. I mean, if we're going to give them that much water, then let's create a big victory garden and use the water to create food. Okay, so I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about keeping land and not turning it over to an empire like, they're called Under Canvas Inc. So please, please resource this. Seriously, it's huge. It's big. Yeah. So you can read the article, and that's all I have to say. I got a lot more to say.
Okay.
That's it for tonight.
Cool, thanks for the articles.
Thanks,
Mark, anything?
A couple of things. One, I will not be at the coffee on the 22nd, Mr. Mayor. The other thing is, Sheila, I'm with you on that. They have a number of those glamping cities dotted in and around many national parks. I've seen them in Utah, especially in Zion, around Zion and Bryce. And they don't look like something that's really would contribute well to our community. So other than that, I'm good. Thanks.
All right.
Are you just saying to Dolores, or are you saying to the county?
I think he's implying the county.
The county. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your support.
Are you still with us, Mark?
Just barely.
I know how you feel.
All right, what's your second thing?
Get well.
He did it.
Oh, he did
He
both?
won't be there.
He won't be at the
Oh, okay, got it, okay. Thank you. Chris Curry.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Linnea.
I do not have anything at the moment.
Marie.
A couple times I've brought up how I feel like we should have more events in town to create more community spirit, and I noticed we do nothing for 4th of July, which I find so odd.
We used to.
We do?
We
used to? But wouldn't it be nice to bring it back if we did like a picnic, fireworks? Maybe not fireworks, okay. But
Not this year
picnic,
especially.
Escalante does a parade, maybe a kids parade. Certainly nothing political, but just something fun for families and kids. I don't know.
Cook-off.
Yeah, something like that. And I know I bring this stuff up, but I don't know how to get it going. I feel like we bring things up and then it just kind of dissipates and we never bring it up again. So I don't know how to get things like this rolling.
So you can
do it myself.
You can apply for a permit and take over Flanders Park and have a party.
Okay. All right.
With Jake and Hannah.
Wouldn't it be nicer if it was a town thing?
Yeah, it would be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I mean,
I have an idea.
Yes.
4th, on 4th, do a little street fair right there next to the hotel and have bands and, you know, just some fun.
Block party?
Yeah, block party.
I personally like 4th on 5th, but I get it.
4th and 5th. I'm a little proud.
That's a good idea. That's a good
Anyway.
idea.
You know, it's hard because,
Taxes us more and more.
Hmm?
Taxes us more and more with the sheriff's involvement, with all of our resources being.
Yeah, I mean, there for a few years, we had fireworks when the girls were little. And at that time, the chamber ran a really great 4th of July. There was a little parade and watermelon eating contest and, you know. And then everyone would go down to Joe Rowell and they would do a few fireworks. But that was when the fire department did it. It wasn't as regulated then, you know, so now it is more regulated. And then there were several years that just dry, and so they would have them scheduled and they'd cancel them, and then it just kind of like, well, never mind, everyone goes to Cortez to watch the fireworks, or they'll go to Rico or Telluride.
Yeah, what if we did something earlier so people got out in time to go?
I do like the day picnic idea or something.
Yeah, like the watermelon eating contest,
Corn on
or
the cob
the
and-
chili cook-off, or, I don't know.
Something a little
just-
early.
I mean,
Marie?
you're the only one with small kids, so
Mark?
would that be something? Yes,
Yeah,
Mark.
Marie, I'd love to talk to you further about it. I've been closed every year since I can hardly remember when the fire department shut down the fireworks due to fire danger, and they never came back. But this year I'm committed to 4th of July. I've already got the Black Lily scheduled to play. And
Nice.
So let's do something.
Let's do something.
Get
Let's
Jake
talk.
and
Yeah.
see if we can coordinate something.
yeah, I hope to restart something of fun or some kind of celebration in Dolores.
Oh, that'd be great. Awesome. Let's talk when you feel better.
Awesome.
Well, and it might be safer in Dolores, because last year there was
Yeah.
this shooting in Cortez.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how things played
yeah.
out, and yeah, it just never rebounded, never came back.
I like a daytime or a late afternoon thing. Would
Yeah,
be fun.
that'd be fun.
Bring your picnic blankets and some.
I like the 4th on 4th, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
4th on
there's
5th.
5th.
Okay. Anything else?
No. I'm
Okay. Awesome. All right. So we are going to have a public hearing to discuss Montezuma and the liquor license. So I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right. Let's discuss.
I can co-present with you.
That sounds
What I
good.
do.
Okay, so, at the last board meeting, we tried to put this in the consent agenda, and you all wanted to pull it out to hear about violations that have happened. We did send for a request to the state, but that investigation, there's no conviction there, right? Because they're not done with it. So we don't have any, like, real formal, hard information that we can provide about what happened, right? We have the sheriff's report for sure, but again, the state has not, they have not finished their investigation, so.
Yep.
We also included some language around the actual code, but we in our ordinance, and that's why, one of the reasons that we're redoing the ordinance, we don't yet have any teeth that we as a board can do, right? The state has some teeth, we'll have to adopt that. Stop me if I'm saying anything
No,
wrong here.
you're good, yeah.
So that's kind of where we are on this. So, there's a number of things, the license is due when? May?
I think he's got some time.
Yeah, we have some
Yeah,
time on this, if you wanna push it down the road. We can also say, okay, it's a 1-year license and you have to come back and then we'll have more data around that time.
His expiration date is 5/12/25, but he has a due date to get it into
March, is it March?
March 28th.
March 28th, so we
we
would have
don't
to
know.
decide. Yeah. So that's where we are. And of course, you'll hear from Juan if you'd like, and anybody else that's here on his behalf, right? And then you can decide. But essentially, since it's due to the state on March 28th, we either have to say yay or nay here.
So we opened the public hearing, now we're gonna hear from people,
Right.
then we close the public hearing, but then we have to reopen it to vote on a liquor license renewal?
No, you don't reopen it, you just make the motion to approve or deny.
Same,
Yeah.
same process,
So
okay.
our only decision is whether, for our part in all this, to approve or not approve.
Yep.
moving forward.
Right.
Sure.
I'd like to hear from Juan and
Yeah.
whoever else is
And
here.
Yeah, it's a
Feel
public
free to-
hearing,
yeah.
everybody can speak.
Ask all the questions of the provider that you would like, right? Yeah.
Sure thing.
So, yeah, and there's a letter from me in the packet in there, and really the options are under the current code is to renew or not renew today. If you not renew, you have to have good cause. Our code does not define good cause, and I've got some information in that letter about what that might look like. But as the town manager has correctly pointed out, there have been some allegations swirling that there may have been some violation on the premises, but we don't have any documentation of a conviction. So that's kind of where we.
And that's
where we
fine,
are.
I think it's good that it uncovered some holes in our code that we can talk about at a later date.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think there may be this is, and I think you brought this up. The state's trying to cut $1.5 billion out of the
Right.
budget. They're probably going to start pushing more of the enforcement onto municipalities. So we should have a code in the future that, allows for investigation, fines, hearings, that type of thing.
Sure.
Defines good cause, so we don't have that right now.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to hear from the sheriff before we move into.
It's a public hearing, so whoever wants to speak can speak.
Okay.
We do have an investigator here in this area though.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
Want what?
Would you like to say anything on this subject
Oh,
before we hear from Juan?
I was notified on January the 10th of a violation from Liquor Enforcement Officer Noah Herman, who did a compliance at the Montezuma Mexican Restaurant on that day. And there was, they did an operation where they sent in an underage person who was served, and that's what caused this violation to occur, was serving an underage. In the past, we've had, I'm talking about myself, being received information regarding overage serving, as well as some underage serving. So, and this comes from past employees and other patrons that have witnessed some of these things. There have been no other violations. There have been no observed violations by law enforcement other than this. So what I've asked is that we just want compliance and we want it to be safe for everybody. That's all I ask. And I know that Juan would probably do the very best that he could. The thing is that you have to train your people, okay, that are working for you, and that's what causes so many of these types of violations. In my career, that's the way that it's been in the past. The thing is that over-serving leads to other public safety concerns, either driving under the influence when they leave, getting into a motor vehicle crash where there's serious injury, or death. We've had 2 of those, okay? And that's the thing that concerns me the most. Both of those were covered by the Colorado State Patrol. They were not in town, so they were on a state highway. The thing is, though, is that it's very incumbent upon a liquor license owner and establishment to make sure that you're not allowing somebody to drink more than what they should, okay? Having those foods and things like that, those snacks available that help, but being able to cut it off. When it comes that time, that sometimes is very hard. And that's all I ask, is that be responsible and let's cut it off if we need to. And we've always been there when we have responded to some calls where we had people that refused and that kind of thing, and we took care of that. They were escorted out of the establishment. We're here to serve the licensee as well as the public. So, yeah, everybody's got to know there's a limit, okay? So, drinking responsibly is one of the big things. So, okay.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? If you do, come up.
Hi guys. I just want to say, you know, that I've been responsible for almost 9 years, you know, and this is a new lady that showed up and asked me for a job. I said, yeah, it's been 8 months. If you guys notice, if Tommy, I think you know, the 26th of February, it was the first training available. If you guys know, there's no training available in this area. We don't have any trainings for alcohol. You know, I came from Oregon. We have, you know, you get your license for to renew, to serve alcohol, to serve food, and we don't have these here for employees. You know.
You don't have training.
Training available. You know, like over there in Oregon, the county provides that. You know, you pay to the county, you get your test, you get your licensing and everything, and you settle, right? But we don't have that in here.
You can do it online.
Right. Yeah,
I did mine online.
You can do it online. I know you can do it online. But, and I see it a lot, you know, like how many people, and I've been talking to a lady in Durango, she's doing it, the lady in Durango. But how much people, especially, you know, as Hispanic, I know you guys probably don't understand, but it's hard if you guys go to Mexico and trying to do all these, you know, like, it's hard for us. So sometimes, you know, and I know it should be my responsibility to have all my people training, but it's hard whenever it's a language barrier, you know, too. And I have a lot of kids too. I hire a lot of kids from high school, you know, and it's hard, especially, you know, this time, you know, it's hard because people don't want to get out of their phones, you know. They want to use their phones all the time. They don't want to, you know, be responsible, you know. I hire a lot of kids, even adults, you know, that they don't want to comply with anything, and it's hard to get people here, you know. It's really hard. I usually have, on the summertime, up to 20 employees, you know, and it's a headache for me, you know. And I've been doing it for all these years, you know. And it's not like, you know, and I was with the sheriff that happened, but what he didn't say, it's that day, whenever that crash happened, he had an open container, right? So that was not my container. And the insurance, they still go after me, you know. Or there's, you know, I didn't get in trouble of nothing like that, but they had an open container, you know. The liquor store can sell that too, you know, or they can buy alcohol anywhere. So it was just not my place. He drank 3 drinks over there. That was it, you know, from 6 to 11. Then and I know exactly everything will happen because I was there. You know, I know he wasn't drunk when he left, you know. And the State Patrol report, it has open container, but that's something else, you know.
So question, was this the only, I thought originally we had talked about underage drinking.
No, never happened before.
Yeah. Yeah, there have been reports. there's been no observed violations by us. But this is coming from the past, from either patrons that have been at the restaurant or in the bar, or past employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not, I never, you know.
I know. Yeah.
It's never hear about anything.
And really, that's considered to be hearsay?
Yeah, which is fine. I mean,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but my family owned a restaurant. I was a bartender. I was a waiter. You have to teach your employees judgment, right? If you somebody's on their fourth double scotch, you know, like you know, they don't need a fifth.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever.
Yeah,
Especially
no,
if they're
and
driving here.
I spent all my life. I started working on the restaurant since I was 16. I only have
Yeah.
2 jobs. The place that I work in Oregon and this my own place. You know, I have more than 18 years. And like I said, that's the first time that happened to me. You know, and like I say, I don't get in trouble for what he's saying because I never proved that it
Yep.
was my restaurant. I didn't sell a bottle to him, you know. He was there from 6 to 11 playing pool tournament. He won the pool tournament. So, you know, I don't think he was drunk. I don't think he got drunk out of my place. But like I say, there's nothing to.
You guys have any questions before we hear from
And
Norman? I think you're here to speak too.
I would do my best, you know, to like I've been doing all the time, you know. Like I said, I've been in business for 9 years. This is the first time it happened, you know. If the sheriff says happened before, I didn't notice, you know. Nobody sent me a letter. Nobody, you know. I had one lady told me that she called me in the restaurant and say my daughter was intoxicated there and she's under the age. I say, you know, a lot of people, they brought their own alcohol too, and we called the sheriff once for that because somebody brought their backpacks. They sitting outside in the patio, and there's the same, you know, bush or whatever.
They bought their what?
Their own alcohol.
Their own alcohol.
Oh yeah.
So you allow that?
That's
illegal.
And they do it a lot in this area. You know, you go, you know. So that's why I told the bartenders just watch all the time for that.
Do you have a restaurant manager, or is it just you?
It's
Because you
just
have a
me.
big place.
It's just me, my wife, and the bartenders usually watch out. And
Do you require your servers to get tips training or some sort of alcohol training? Like we went to something last week.
Yeah, it's what we usually do. Like I said, we used to do it with Boy Nico. We used to do those trainings with him, and then we went to another one like 2 years ago, a year ago. But like I say, I bet you guys notice how often we change employees.
Oh, yeah.
You know, how often, because people, it's just, especially Dolores, they don't want to stay here, you know.
But do you or your wife, like, did you go to the liquor training down in Cortez a couple weeks ago?
No, we didn't.
So that might be something?
Yeah, no, and
you
like I
might
said,
wanna do?
I'm talking to a lady in Durango who does that for the county, for La Plata County. And she does in Spanish classes too. In Spanish, and she's certified. Like this doesn't certify anything. They just, you know, it's this.
No, that was informational, but you can go online.
Yeah,
Like I
and
got my
like-
tip
like-
certification online.
Yeah, and last year I got the investigator from Grant Johnson. I brought over to the restaurant too, and he gave us like 2-hour class too.
Yeah.
It's almost like City Market now. I think they say if you look under 30, you're going to be carded, and they're trying to be caution on the
Wine.
on the real cautious side.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you tell your servers that?
Yeah, all the time. Like I say, this is all what I do, you know. This
It's
is
hard.
A real old looking teenager.
Yeah. It's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Concerns?
One,
Yes.
I do have an issue. Can you stop by my office? Because on that one it says.
Yeah. Okay. I let Christina fill out that.
Okay.
But she knows that.
So moving forward from today, will you have your servers get training online, or at least one of them can
Yeah.
get trained and then
No,
teach the rest?
We as you know, and I bet you know because you say you own the restaurant, you have a certified manager, right? You need to have one of those. So whenever, I don't know if you got your certified.
Me, yeah.
Okay, so you know it involves everything. So it's me and it's my wife,
So your tips,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you get certified online,
Mhm.
then you get a copy, right? So would it be apropos to say if one of his servers went online, took the course and got certified, that they give us a copy of that certification?
I think if you do some amendments to the code in the future, you could require that a licensee submit all the tip certifications. I don't think there's statutory authority to do that today.
And that's one of the things, Sheila, we were talking about, like, should we change it eventually after this? Like, not your issue right now, but like, should we change it to that we do have the ability to fine restaurants or bars that are in violation, or do we have a 3 strikes law where if there's 3 violations that the sheriff has evidence of, that we could have a reason to pull the liquor license or something? But right now, to John's point, we have nothing. It's either yes or no.
Whether we were.
Is that correct?
That's right, yeah,
That's correct.
essentially, yes. I mean, to say no, you've gotta have.
And we have to have just
Cause,
cause.
so, yeah.
Verifiable cause. Yep, okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Norbert, are you here for moral support?
Nope, just to say I think it's a great place and adds a lot to the community.
Yeah.
And I know there's probably a little issue here and there, but I see it as being a really positive
Yeah.
part of our town.
All right, Tammy, do a count, and we're gonna say yes, renew, or no, don't renew.
Probably do a motion to
A motion.
renew.
We have to have a motion,
I make a
okay.
motion to renew
Yeah.
Montezuma Mexican Restaurants liquor license.
I'll second it.
Close the public meeting.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
we are closing the public meeting.
Thank you, Iceberg.
That was all the same. We're gonna close the public hearing at 7:31. And we wanna make, I make a motion that we approve the liquor license renewal for Montezuma's Restaurant.
Right.
I need a
Second.
second. Okay, now do a count.
Okay, are we voting or count?
I'd like to count.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call. Yep.
Roll call, okay. Trustee Youngquist,
Yay.
trustee Peterson,
Yes.
trustee Curry,
Yes.
Mayor Hochstead,
Yes?
trustee Roan,
Yes.
trustee Grigg,
Yes.
trustee Wheeler.
See,
Okay. All right, motion passed. They are renewed in March, or in May,
Yes.
whenever that comes to pass. Second one is,
Thank you,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
We are going to discuss ordinance 584, series 2025, repealing 543, series 2020, emergency ordinance concerning coronavirus. This is the second reading. We need a motion? Or are you gonna give us information first?
Nothing has, okay, thought you were telling me something I should be aware of. So, yeah, this one and the next ordinance kind of go, are companions. And they are kind of undoing the emergency COVID protocols that we had. But the second one is codifying some of the provisions for virtual meetings.
And it's not changed since the last time.
It is.
Okay, so
We
we
have not changed.
just need, I'm opening the hearing, or did I just do that?
We just need a motion.
Well, you gotta have a hearing.
Yeah, so opening the public
Oh,
hearing on ordinance 584 at 7:33. Is there any discussion? Public hearing closed. All right, I need a motion.
I will make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance 584, series 2025, repealing ordinance 543, series 2020.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All right, let's do a roll call. Tammy?
Trustee Wheeler,
yes.
trustee Grigg,
Yes.
trustee Roan,
Yes.
Mayor Hochstead.
Yes.
Trustee Curry,
Yes.
trustee Peterson,
Yes.
trustee Youngquist.
Yes.
That's so good. All right, great. Motion, It is passed. Now we are on to opening a public hearing for ordinance 585, series 2025, repealing ordinance 544, series 2020, providing virtual meetings and providing for its adoption as an emergency ordinance, but making certain permanent provisions for participation in public meetings by virtual means. Do we have discussion?
Just going back to what you were saying earlier, John, as far as at some point just having a procedural policy, like,
Yeah.
you know, hi, my name's Joe Smith, I live at blah, blah, blah.
So
Which I thought we were supposed to do anyway.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was protocol anyway.
I think we've been asking, or David's been really good about asking, but we haven't really codified it, right?
So there are the protocols that were adopted by resolution several years back, and that did require, as I recall, that for regular meetings, we could go and take a look at those protocols again and just update those for virtual meetings. And include a provision in there that whoever is moderating would require people to state their name and address. And, yeah.
I think the issue comes in when people come in and don't identify, see, like we have somebody on here that's a Zoom user right now.
Yeah.
Has no earthly idea who that is. So in order to come into the meeting, they would have to identify who they are, where they, where they live, and then we can let them in.
But we can do that by resolution, by updating those meeting protocols. That would be my suggestion. Because it's a lot easier to change the resolution than it is the ordinance. It costs money to change the ordinance. We've got to publish it in the newspaper and all of that, so.
Yeah.
And then, David, it becomes responsibility of somebody like yourself to monitor that during the
Correct.
meeting.
So the way it works is, when I open up the meeting, somebody logs in, and then it tells me so-and-so is waiting to be let into the room. And so what we can do, as soon as they come in the room, we can say, you have to identify yourself, whatever Zoom user, you need to identify yourself and what your address is. And if they don't, then you can actually take them out of the meeting.
And I thought it was something different because I think that's great, but I was more concerned if people are, like, we know when they're talking. Like, if somebody's just listening, I'm not sure I care all that much that they're from the moon, but if they want to call and make an opinion or give us feedback, then to me, that's what's important to me. Like, okay, great. You're listening from Phoenix, that's one thing, but if you want to comment, then we need to know that. I don't care either way, but it's slight variation.
What if I didn't want to give you my address? What if I said I was a property owner in town of Dolores, but I refused to give you my address for safety purposes?
That makes sense.
Well, are you gonna speak or are you just zooming in?
I want to speak because of me owning the property, but for safety purposes, what would you do? I mean, how
I
would you?
understand that concern with today's scamming and everything else.
What's the scenario? What would be the safety?
Well, let's say a person was fleeing from a bad divorce or something, or the husband beat her, or that she beat the husband, or whatever, and they don't want that they don't want their address publicly announced.
Oh,
They can send a message over to David.
And that's a fair point. They're a domestic violence survivor, a law enforcement officer.
They could also email it.
Say they get email, send a letter, whatever.
And we
Mike,
can
you have
redact that part.
we're gonna, Mr. Sawyer has a comment.
I was just gonna say, some meetings I've been to, the people just say their street. They don't put in their
That's a fair
address.
point.
But, I mean, nowadays, the way things are,
Yep.
you know somebody's name, and
Yep.
if you know how to manipulate the internet, you can find a lot of people, a lot of things.
I mean, to me, I'm okay if they just say, I'm Susan from Dolores.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they address the board.
Yeah.
when they address the board in person, they're
That's true.
supposed to, state your name,
Yeah.
your address.
Correct.
And so it's similar to that online if they want to talk. But I think you could look at it two ways, the people that want to address the board, they should have to tell you, I'm so-and-so at this address or whatever, or street, whatever. Same thing as if they're speaking at this podium, right? But then as far as them coming into the room, I think that's up to you. The trend is that people are not letting people into their meetings unless they tell who they are, because of the malicious stuff that's been done in the background.
No, after hearing what Mike just said, it kind of clicked in me. I do like your idea, like we don't need to know necessarily, but in order to just get into the meeting online, you have to put that information in. It's not public. The
Someone
monitor,
send you a
the
message.
monitor knows that.
Yeah, it's
So you just instant message folks to get their address, is that what you're doing?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is, it's still, the information's kept proprietary, but it's still a gate to the
Yeah,
speak.
I think you can see, I'll have to look. I think if somebody went in after the fact, they could see who was in the meeting.
Right.
But the great point there is, just use a street, or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
instead of a physical address.
I'm gonna tell you, if you tell me your street, I know where you live.
Yeah,
I mean, and we're talking, if they put their name in here,
we'll probably know.
yeah, I mean, I guarantee you can, for $25,
Yeah.
I can tell you everything about that person. I can tell you their phone numbers, I can tell you where their loans for their house are at, I can tell you if they are paying car payments, that's all for sale.
Mine is at Mr. Cooper in Texas.
Well, so we can research more of this later then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it is kind of a moving target, and that's why I'm suggesting maybe just do it by resolution, exactly what that looks like. And just as, we're trying to prevent malicious folks from
Yep.
coming onto the meeting and doing disruptive things, it's a moving target.
Yeah,
So
and we are talking about
figure
the
out what to do today and be different tomorrow.
and we are talking about the kind of absurd example too, because honestly, if you're in witness protection or something, you're not going to speak.
Yeah.
You're not going to come in and say, "Hi, I'm Doris from Fifth Street" or whatever, right? So let's try the gatekeeping on the entrance and then see if that works.
Well, I think we have to do resolution on that, right?
We can
Before
follow up
we
the
can start?
protocols and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Put
okay.
together some ideas and.
Sure, yeah. Talk to Rachel. Well, they don't do any of it. Okay, so we are kicking this one?
Yeah.
All right. So,
We need to close the public hearing.
yep, I am going to close the public hearing on ordinance 585, series 2025, and I need a motion to continue it.
To continue, no, yes
Oh, we
or
don't
no?
need any of it.
No, because we're gonna come back with a resolution for the clarification.
Oh, okay, so we'll do it then.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 585, series 2025.
I'll second.
All right, and
Who did the official second?
Linnea.
Okay.
she was quicker. Okay, and then let's do a count.
Roll call.
Yep.
Mayor Holsted.
Yep.
Trustee Curry.
Yep.
Trustee Roan.
Yes.
Trustee Peterson.
Yes.
Trustee Gregg.
Yep.
Trustee Youngquist.
Yes.
And Trustee Wheeler.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Oh, we just did that, sorry.
just voted.
Sorry, I want to double it down. This daylight savings thing has really got me today. Okay, now we're on to 11.4, which is ordinance 586, series 2025, amendment of the Dolores marijuana code.
This is the second reading, isn't it?
Yep, this is
Yeah,
the
it's the
second reading.
so it's another public hearing.
Yep, so I'm opening the public hearing at 7:43. Any discussions on it?
Can we make it any shorter?
It is 7:43 and some change. I'm closing the public hearing. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 586, series 2025.
Second.
And do a roll call.
Renee, I'm sorry.
Roll call.
That was not, never mind. Roll call. Mayor Holstead.
Yes.
Trustee Curry.
Yes.
Trustee Peterson.
Yes.
Trustee Youngquist.
Yep, here.
Trustee Wheeler.
Okay.
Trustee Gregg.
Yes.
Trustee Roan.
Yep.
All right, we can put this to bed. It's passed. And then 11.5, discussion and introduction of the Dolores liquor code.
No action needed.
No action needed, nothing discussed, nothing.
No, he's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean, I
do
can.
Right, okay.
Just ask some
He was looking at me like I'm
questions
crazy.
about that, and everybody's worried about over-serving. I think we need to worry about the effect of losing an hour's sleep on
See,
everybody.
Mike?
The effect of what?
No kidding.
I said, I think we need to worry about the effect of losing an hour's sleep on everybody.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there is, in the packet is some suggested additions and changes. You know, we're obviously are gonna get rid of 3-2 beer. That's not a thing anymore. So just as you put this together, a little bit of feedback I'd like to get. Some different communities have some different models for how to do renewals and violations. Some municipalities have a hearing officer, okay? Some municipalities appoint the town clerk as a hearing officer. Some municipalities just hire somebody else as needed to deal with alleged violations, do a hearing, and then bring recommendations to the trustees. I would think for a community our size, that's probably not really necessary. How many liquor licenses do we have in the town?
There's 6 or 8. 6.
Probably the restaurants, the liquor stores, the gas stations.
Okay, great.
I think there's about
5.
no, there's more than that.
Yeah.
No, there's about 8.
Okay, so I just, the first question is, I'm assuming we want to delegate the clerk kind of as the enforcement officer to handle all of this, but keep you guys as the final, as the arbiters to hold these types of hearings. Is that fair? I mean, we can make that.
And that's the way we're doing it now, right?
Well, yeah, we don't have a separate hearing officer, but to keep it kind of the way we are now.
I would.
I think that's working?
Yeah, I know a lot about liquor license because of my previous career. And it's just municipalities are a little bit different. And I think that just to keep it simple, we'll keep everybody on an even keel, and it won't be such a burden on the town to have a hearing officer or anything like that. If there was a violation, this would be the way to do it, is to hold a public hearing.
Yep.
And the person responsible for it. And I think that would be fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to come out, I mean, I think this is actually probably maybe the second or third one we've had a hearing on in the last 4 or 5
It was
years.
probably, cause last, well, it's kinda weird, but, Dolores River Brewery, not Dolores, the River Brewery in the same building.
No, just the river, it wasn't a brewery.
Right. The River Bar,
Which one was that?
it was
The
in
one
the
before
building
this
that
one.
Juan's got.
Mark
Oh,
is
that-
searching
oh,
for
yeah,
his own
yeah.
need.
They got closed.
Yeah,
There was one there.
we held a hearing on it, and then not too long after that, it closed.
So, some other things to consider here, I want to add a definition of good cause. So that's in the, we'll get a definition section. in addition to some standard definitions that are defined in the statute, adding a very clear definition for good cause. So, for example, the licensee or the applicant has violated, does not meet or has failed to comply with any of the terms or conditions of the Colorado Liquor Code. Or the applicant has failed to comply with any conditions that were placed on the license. So I'd like to just add a very clear, objective definition of good cause. So if an issue comes up about renewal, non-renewal, an application, we've got an objective standard that if it goes to the district court, we've got a shot of it being upheld. Okay? So the definitions in here are more up-to-date, modern definitions. So violations and penalties, if you scroll down to page 3 of 7, what I'm going to suggest is we kind of expand that a bit, where the municipality, where the town might have the ability to impose a more significant fine than our $500 fine. Maybe you do a $500 fine for a first violation and graduate it from there. If it's a second or third violation. Somebody had suggested earlier the 3 strikes type of thing. I don't know if that's something you want to look at. I would suggest not having a little bit more discretion, but I'm going to suggest building a fine schedule in there that is more significant than $500.
Yeah, and I only mentioned 3 strikes or something because, if a company or a business has enough money, they could just keep taking the fines and keep paying them.
Yeah.
Well, then you close
so.
the place. Then you close the place.
Well, that's why we have 3 strikes. So like you get 3 strikes, you're closed. Because if you don't have that, I think if it's just a $500 or $1,000 fine, they can just keep paying it, and just say, oh, we're just gonna do this forever.
That's the state imposes, I think it's a $700 fine, or you face closing your establishment, which is really cheating.
Yeah.
From 5 in the morning till, 10 in the morning, and nobody drinks from Pike. So it doesn't really hit them in the pocket. But.
So, yeah, we should have a dunking machine. Dunk them in the river.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, so come back with some recommendations.
Yeah, for a fine schedule, I'd like to suggest building in here, when you do a renewal or an application, that you would have the ability maybe to impose some conditions. So, for example, you could require them to, as Sheila suggested, all of their employees have to be tips trained within X number of days of hire, and they have to submit a plan and maybe submit the proof of the tips training.
Well,
for their employees.
serving employees, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So 21 and older.
18 and older.
18.
Oh, you can serve at 18?
You can serve at 18, you just
Supervised.
can't drink it.
Really?
I know, right?
Okay.
Tips is not.
The logic of the legislature.
Tips.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It
make
stands
sense.
for, but yeah, it's
So we can
alcohol.
serve alcohol to
Yeah.
18-year-olds?
No. The 18-year-old can serve.
Oh, can serve,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like the penalty schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea to do that.
Right.
So, I mean, if you get a complaint, it can be investigated. So, one of the questions on page 4 here is who is the one that's going to conduct an investigation on behalf of the town? Some of this is the town clerk, some of the other ordinances I've looked at. Some of it is the town attorney. I am not too fond of that. I don't want to be both the prosecutor and the presenter here.
That's right.
Some of them you hire some kind of outside investigator. I'm going to suggest that the investigation be done by the town clerk.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
I know how to look for flies on bottles.
Okay.
That's nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's true. They'll fine you if they have fruit flies around the bottles and stuff like that.
Really?
Yes.
Is that the liquor code or the health code?
The liquor code and health code.
So you're gonna be the investigator.
So there you go.
We'll get you a vest
Yeah.
and a ticket thing to rate.
Yeah. Actually, all the clerk does is just make sure the paperwork's right.
Yeah.
She sends the sheriff out there, she sends the building inspector, and, that's it.
Yeah. So basically, this model under section 5.20070 would be is that Tammy is the enforcement agent. If there's, or the sheriff is bringing a complaint, we'd have a mechanism to bring that to the trustees. The trustees can then say, yes, we want to open an investigation and a public hearing. And the revised statute would provide exactly how that would occur. Right now, our code doesn't really speak to anything, how to do that. So, if that's something just to give you a little bit more flexibility and some tools, we can certainly write that in there.
Hey,
Okay?
John,
Yeah.
I have another thing, a little tidbit about the penalty schedule notion. What I'm curious about is if that could be considered much like your driver's license might be, where how many years of clean driving or no violations may allow that one violation to kind of.
Like points?
No DUIs, you mean?
Like
How many
points?
DUIs?
I'm talking about, like, if so, there's a violation by a liquor licensee. How many years will that be considered? So if there's a secondary violation or in this idea of 3 strikes, you're out, like, is that 3 strikes over the course of 2 years or 5 years or 25 years or 50 years?
Yeah, that's a good qualification.
Yeah, I mean, like with your driver's license, I think it's 12 points in a year is a problem, or 18 points over 18 months. I forget exactly how that works, but your driver's license takes into account the amount of time.
So we can come up like a 5-year or something.
Yeah. So that's something definitely to consider. I mean, we could work into this code that you could put an applicant or a person that has a founded complaint against them on a probationary period. And you know what, you're on a 6-month probation, no violations during that probation. Yeah.
It's kind of scary though, because if you find a bunch of violating liquor stores around here or establishments, we're not going to have any business, and there goes our revenue. So we kind of have to be careful on that, because the state does run some severe stings.
Yeah. But there's no risk if you're following the law.
Right.
Correct.
Right. That's just you really have to enforce that. Tell people that check those IDs, check this, check that. Don't overserve.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, any other changes? Tammy had sent me a list of stuff that she and I are questions I was gonna answer, and we probably will come back with the first reading that'll incorporate some of your concerns.
Yeah, they changed the 3-2 to fermented malt beverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, we do, when we are ready to formalize an entertainment district, we've got some homework to do with the state to actually submit that application, to actually get the state licensure for that. So, but I think we've got the skeletal framework in place here, but to actually implement it is going to require some more work just on the administrative side.
Okay. So we'll hear back from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And
Thanks,
then,
John.
do we need to do the next 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems coda?
Well, it had the word possible, so I didn't know if that gave me the ability to make it impossible.
No, we need to get this done. It's a formality for the school, right?
Yep.
So because the state is so far backed up on site plan review, they have, the school has contracted with a company in California that can do it now, and then they can start the building process. So these two things are, one, the MOU is to make sure they pay for it all. And the inspections will be done either by David or our new person. Because our new person does not have the fire side. He has more on the other side, so it'll be a nice partnership. Plus, David's retiring, and he wants to actually retire. But we've sorted that all out,
Okay.
so, yeah. Are there any questions about this at all?
Nope.
I'm sorry, what does MOU stand for again? I saw it. in-
Memo of understanding.
Thank you.
It's a technical state-town thing.
Why did I think when I was reading this that, gosh, that we weren't like qualified to inspect, and so then they were bringing in this California
Right.
company.
That's correct. So on the actual site plans, we're not qualified.
Okay.
Well, it's the building plans. And
Yeah.
so what it is the state has certain regulations
Right.
that we don't have the certifications for.
Okay, and that's where that California group will come in.
An approved person,
Right.
company, or their people are 9 months out.
Okay.
So they have a list of a few people or companies that can do that, plan review stuff.
Okay.
Shoot,
So it's gonna be
kinda-
kind of a shared thing,
Exactly, yeah.
kind of back and forth then.
Right, because if it goes past a certain time, do you know the time, Trustee Curry?
No, I don't.
If it goes past a certain time, they lose a lot of their funding.
Yeah, like we do with
So
the.
we are trying to, and they're behind because the first time it failed and the second time it passed. So you had space in there a year, so
Okay.
they're already a year behind.
Yeah,
So,
they're
yeah.
scrambling for sure.
Right, and so much like we use Safe Built sometimes, this is
Uh-huh.
the same kind of company. It's just one out of California
Right.
that the state recognizes.
Okay. And did I read in somewhere in here that like we would pay them?
Well, that's what then the MOU is, it's passed through. So the two things going, if you don't pass both, it won't work, right?
No, but I mean, we would be paying, like the company would bill us? I thought I read something
I
in
don't
here.
think so.
I should have marked the
Yeah.
page. I didn't. Okay.
I didn't read that, but.
I didn't see that either.
Any other questions?
Okay, I need a motion to approve resolution R647 Shumakoda contract.
Has a nice ring to it.
Anybody?
I'll move to approve resolution R647.
Everybody falls
I'll
asleep?
second that.
Second.
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, 647 is passed. I need a motion to approve R649, the companion piece, which is MOU with Dolores School District.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, 649 is passed.
Okay, couple of things. So Thursday we have a parks meeting.
Yep.
So if anybody's going to P and Z for the county, I won't be able to go. Caitlin won't be able to go.
Are you talking about this Thursday? March 3rd?
Correct. Yeah, that's fine. I'm telling you, I'm sorry I won't be there. And then don't forget the 22nd.
Woohoo!
What's that? No, I'm kidding.
What?
And
Coffee and scones.
Yeah.
Oh, at the library, right?
No, it's at the
It's at the
grocery
market.
store,
No, it's
in the cooler.
community center, right?
Yeah. Nah, I'm just yanking
Okay,
chains.
That's my
not
favorite
Tuesday,
destination in summertime. Go shopping for some vegetables in the nice cooler.
For a long time.
Yeah, yeah. All right, it is 8:03, and we are closing the meeting. Thank you.
Huzzah. We are.
Yeah, that stuff is going.
I know. Why do you want to squash?
Thank you for the nice
I
gift.
know, well, I thought it was straight.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Very welcome. I would say wash it down.